Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Sarah Renee Show. I'm your host, Sarah Renee, and today I'm going to talk to you about deliverance and breaking agreements and how that can be such a vital part of your healing journey of overcoming blocks and fears and really seeing lasting change in your life. So let's dive right in. Um, this has been such a huge theme in my work with one-on-one clients, in my class Heaven Sent. Even I'm starting to bring this more and more into my membership group, and really seeing super powerful, super transformative results. And as we dive into this topic, for those of you who have worked with me for a while, you know that I have been helping people to clear, um, to cut cords, to break soul, ties, all of that. And it's really been fascinating to me to to learn this next step, right? And to start to bring this in and weave in this biblical aspect of it that is so it just adds more power to it. Is what I'm essentially trying to say in a roundabout way. So it's been really, really cool to see how how my old tools and kind of older methods have grown into these new methods that God has been showing me and guiding me to learn and teaching me just firsthand as we're working through this stuff. And it's been really, really fun and super powerful. So I wanted to share it with you because I feel like we we think about breaking, or talk about like breaking through blocks, or I think, you've probably felt, I know I've felt like blocked in certain areas in life, or if you've ever gone through like a season where you're like trying everything, like you're putting in like maximum effort. You are doing all of the things that you know how to do, that like should be working, but you're still like hitting roadblocks. If you've ever felt like that, or if you've ever had something happen where like this pattern just keeps showing up for you, like this episode is for you. You're going to want to really pay attention today, because today's topic and what we're diving into is going to help you break through those blocks. It's going to help empower you to come out of agreement or out of alignment with those patterns. Okay. And with those, unhealthy generational cycles. Um, so that's what I'm talking about today in terms of deliverance. Next week, we're going to talk about deliverance in regards to spiritual warfare. So this is kind of like part one and part two. But today we're going to focus on, because I feel like this is what I see people dealing with the most right now, is how this can apply to breaking through blocks and breaking through patterns, and where generational patterns might be getting in your way right now. So we inherit a lot from our parents, from our grandparents, right? And we normally talk about like, okay, you have genes, a genetic predisposition for these traits, right? Or it might be disorders or illness. It might be really positive traits or skill sets, but we tend to talk about that in like a more physical, health oriented way. And when we talk about energy and energetic cycles, we can see where growing up in a family, growing up in a dialogue, in an environment, in certain energetic currents, energetic patterns, and cycles can set you up to be, predispositioned to that energy. We see it all the time in like trauma loops. Think about like when you are comfortable in something that's maybe not healthy because you grew up in it or because you experienced it before for so long, and so like your nervous system learned how to do that, and it's almost uncomfortable when you start getting really healthy because your nervous system like doesn't know how to do health. We see this a lot. I see it a lot in people who go from really toxic relationships to really healthy relationships, where in the healthy relationships, they can feel a little bored. They can feel a little like, I don't know, like, is this too much? Like he's being really consistent. Like, I don't know if I want that. It's like, yes, you do. But like your nervous system is used to, and your body gets hooked on the dopamine and the cycle of the toxic relationships, right? So that's, one way where it comes in, but we inherit these these agreements, these patterns, these wounds, these traumas from our ancestors. And so, and when we're talking about agreement, what I want you to think of, it's not always, sometimes it is, but it's not usually a conscious agreement. So like I feel like agreement and alignment, there are distinctions, but they're very similar. So, but just for right now, think about agreement in the context almost of alignment, of having family that went through the Great Depression. Maybe they lost everything. Maybe people died. Maybe it was just a time of not only challenge and poverty, but severe trauma, severe pain. And they started to lose faith. They started to um, really develop a mindset. They came into alignment, they came into agreement with a belief of God will not help me financially, or there is no God, or money doesn't grow on trees, or that was something I heard growing up from my dad like every day. So that was something that for me I was very much in agreement with, and needed to release, needed to come out of that agreement of God is, and come into alignment, come into agreement with the truth of God as my provider. Right? And so it's looking at like, where did your family potentially pass on an agreement that was made knowingly or unknowingly, where now you have that agreement still playing out in your life, still keeping you in alignment with that frequency, with that energetic cycle. Are you following me? So, these are when we talk about agreement, alignment. Okay, so agreement is like a vow, like a promise. Like, somebody hurts you, it's that I'm never going to fall in love again. Never going to open my heart again. I'm just going to be alone forever. Where you might not even mean it seriously at the time. It might be coming from a place of hurt. But if you continue to come into agreement with that story, it's going to play out. So you might think it's not conscious, but you're coming into agreement with it. And then that belief, that agreement, that contract is influencing your words, your actions, your perspective, how you see life, how you see other people. And so then you're coming into alignment with it in how you show up, right? So the agreement starts as like a vow, a spiritual pact, a belief system, some type of fundamental, right? So the agreement, so this is where we've gone deeper and farther than just cutting the cords, right? Or releasing the pattern. We're going to the root, and the root is the original agreement. Okay. Then the agreement determines what you are aligned with. Okay, so we're talking about alignment. Alignment could also be thought of as like living in integrity with something, right? You're coming into alignment, like your words, your actions, your energy, your thought, your perspective on life is all aligned with this certain frequency, these certain experiences, this certain reality, right? And so we need to address the agreement to then shift the alignment to then create the mindset shifts, the behavior shifts, the pattern shifts, and to form um, to form more behaviors, patterns, habits, relationships, ways of being that are in alignment with the new agreement. Okay. So that is what deliverance is about in this context. Okay. So it's essentially what we do in deliverance sessions is, um, how I see it is it's like God calls forward all of the agreements that you've inherited from your generational lineage, or that you've come into agreement with in your life, and then gives you the opportunity. So you get to participate. Not only do you get to participate, you have to participate because of free will. So you are empowered and you have the authority to say, in God's name, I am coming out of agreement with this, right? And so you make it like a declaration. And this is why in when I go through any kind of clearing, whenever I've done clearings with clients, there's always some type of meditation, some type of prayer, some type of way where they are participating as well, because it's not something where I can just go do it for you. It's a group effort where God is showing me what's going on so that I can help walk you through it, right? If you're not aware, you can do it on your own if once you kind of get in the habit, or if pray on it, you can definitely do it on your own, as you start to build out like your personal practice. It's something that you can do on your own, where it's helpful to have somebody, is like I was just saying, like God shows me, okay, these are the agreements, this is the energy, and then I can, prompt, I can talk to you, like we can sit, look at like, okay, well, what was going on with your family here? What's this all about, right? And so we kind of pull at the strings to reveal the agreements that are actually blocks, that are actually blocking you from a healthy relationship, blocking you from um, a change that you're trying to make, blocking you from more income. And there are all sorts of agreements. There are, that can be blocks. So financial kind of like curses, um, toxic financial agreements, financial patterns, a lot of, relationship stuff like abusive, from abusive situations to just dysfunctional, to like communication issues, to patterns that just simply feel outdated to you, that just don't feel like they're working for you, but you're like, I don't know how to be any other way. Or you do the therapy thing, but then you're still having these same arguments come up, right? This is where, like, I had this client and we were working on a lot of stuff coming up in her marriage, and it was like so much of it was their inner children acting out. And so when we could heal those inner children and those agreements and those core patterns, then they could heal and finally, after like over a decade in therapy, finally break the pattern on a conscious level through their conversations and their therapeutic tools, right? So this is where this spiritual work takes us deeper to the root cause on a soul level that then allows the other methodology to work. So, um, so it's like declarations, if you think of it in that term, right? It can also be an agreement. I'm just checking my notes to make sure that I cover everything that God was guiding me to include. Um, Over identifying, that's what I was forgetting. Over identifying with our wounding. That is a big one. That's like the belief system that coming into agreement with I'm not lovable. It's not safe to love. It could even be coming into agreement with victimhood after being victimized, right? So it's not even untrue necessarily, right? But it's just, oh, this event happened, this trauma happened, and then I entered into agreement with that as my whole identity. Like that's not what I want to do. And so we can start to break through that and begin to break those trauma loops. Um, yeah, I covered all of that. Yep, it can also be like coming into agreement with something that is, darker or harmful for you, during a painful time, during a time of desperation when you're just more vulnerable to kind of darker influences. But again, we're going to go more into that next week when we talk about spiritual warfare, and clearing and breaking free from that, in that context. So again, we have free will. And then when we are really living God's will for us, when we come into alignment, so we come into an agreement and an agreement to live God's will for us. We come into an agreement of, oh yeah, I'm a child of God. I want to fulfill God's will for me. Then we start to live in alignment with that. God gives us the authority to break these agreements that are false agreements, that are old agreements, that aren't healthy agreements, that aren't God's will for us, that were made out of just free will or fear or trauma or inherited or what have you. And then we get to reclaim our true identity. And I just heard this phrase. I'm going to do a whole episode on it. I was watching the show The Chosen, their Bible roundtables, and Dallas brings in a Catholic priest, a Jewish rabbi, and a evangelical pastor, I believe. Um, and so it's really cool. I love it because I love hearing different perspectives of different biblical principles. Um, but I believe it was the Jewish rabbi said, your identity creates your destiny. And that was like, yes, like so powerful. So, right, but we need to break these old agreements in order to reclaim our true identity, to reclaim our power to truly come into agreement, into alignment with God's will for us. And God gives us that authority. So you are never doomed to be victim to any agreements that you have inherited or that you have made knowingly or unknowingly. You always have the power to say, I am done. I am coming out of, I'm breaking this agreement. I'm declaring it canceled, cancel, clear, delete. And I'm coming into agreement with this. You have that power. Okay. So I want today's episode to really empower you to look at, what am I living in agreement with? Like, take that to your journal. What agreements have I inherited from my family that are still playing out? What patterns am I seeing in my life? This is how you can start to like notice, what patterns am I seeing in my life? What patterns have I not been able to break? What addictive cycles have I not been able to break? What habits have I not been able to break? How are those, like, what kind of agreement could those be reflecting? Um, and then and then coming, and praying on, okay, God, deliver me. So that's why we say the word deliverance. It's God delivering you from those agreements into God's light. So deliverance is an experience. It's not just an action. Okay. It's an experience where God literally, how I see it is, it's like God clears out all of those old agreements, all of those blocks, everything that has been holding you back, and lifts you up, right? Lifts you up out of like these prisons, these weights, these old binds that have been trapping you, and lifts you up into God's will for you, into a lighter, higher vibrational frequency. Then, okay, what you want to do so it feels like amazing instantly. Okay, and that's the power of deliverance, is you instantly feel it. What can happen where, mentorship, discipleship, coaching, this is like, in my spiritual transformation coaching, God's really guided me. I'm going to be relaunching it because I've shifted it around. And um, we're gonna start with deliverance to break through the blocks, to really get to the core of everything, and then build and then rebuild for majority of our time together. But and why that's so important is because, whether you work with me or you're working with somebody else or you're just doing self-study, but you want to be teaching yourself how to live, or it's being reworded, teaching yourself or learning from God how to live out God's will for you, how to not go back into those default patterns. So it's not ever that the deliverance didn't break. It's just sometimes it's just like the nervous system, the mindset, like we just revert because we're human, right? And so we need that ongoing help to like really keep that up level, to keep that freedom, to keep living in this new in this new agreement, right? To keep staying aligned with our new agreement. So it takes that time of integration, that time of coaching, of learning, of growing, of really solidifying the deliverance. Make sense? So in your deliverance, you renounce those old agreements, right? So you get to say, I renounce, I rebuke, I cancel out these old agreements, and then you declare. Okay, so you don't it's just like any other clearing, any kind of house clearing blessing. Anytime we are clearing or releasing something, we want to intentionally cultivate, plant seeds, come into alignment with something to replace that. Because otherwise, if it's just empty, the ego is going to fill it. Something darker is going to fill it. Like something else is just going to come in. So we need to be intentional about that. So you want to go through and we start with, okay, I get clear on the agreements that are playing out, how they are impacting my life, so that you are coming from a really clear, confident place of I am ready to break this agreement. Okay, so then you renounce and rebuke it in the name, in the name of Jesus Christ, if you're a follower of Jesus, in the name of God, whatever aligns with your faith, but you summon that higher power where your real authority comes from. And you declare and you rebuke and renounce those old agreements, right? God delivers you, God hears your authority, and it like that part is done. You're uplifted into this light, into where now God can show you God's will for you. God can show you higher possibilities for you. God can show you a new way. Then you declare, so this is one practice, you declare your new agreement. You declare, I am a child of God. So this is like you're declaring your identity. You're declaring who you are. You're declaring how you're going to live your life. You're declaring God is my provider. God is keeping me safe. God is teaching me how to be in healthy relationships. God is, anointing me for a greater purpose. God is, showing me a new way. Like, these are just dropping in, right? But you get the point. You're declaring like God is blessing my life and I am following God's will for me. I am committed to following God's will for me. I'm committed to um, living a healthy life, living a life of honor and integrity, right? Or a godly life or whatever, whatever it is for you, but you're going to declare and really speak life into that seed, into that agreement. Okay, so you're declaring and you're speaking life into this new agreement, activating that alignment. Then you're going to go out, and as you start to live your day-to-day life, you're going to start to track and schedule things in, right? Like again, this is where the coaching comes in because God guides us in really planning out what does that look like for you? What does it look like for you to live in alignment with God's will for you? What is God's will for you right now? What is the next step? All of that we can, figure out together. Um, and God guides us, every step of the way. So, but you can also go and pray on that and every day, God, show me, lead me to fulfill your will for me. Lead me in all of my actions, guide all of my words, help me, to really be who you created me to be. And then you follow through, right? And so you bring God into everything. And this, God will start guiding you. If it's financial stuff, you'll be led to like clean up your debts or start saving or, handle your money in a new way. God will bring you a windfall, like miracles happen in your relationships. You start communicating in a different way, or you'll be led to a therapist that's meant to help you, or you'll be led to a book or like God works in all kinds of ways, right? So but God will lead you every step of the way, and so then your job is to follow that guidance, right? We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and to implement and start to integrate and bring your external life, your actions, your behaviors, the people in your life, the books that you're reading, the things that you're listening to, everything into alignment with this new agreement, and your life transforms. So it is step by step, but it is so powerful. And there's a lot, God calls us to do hard things. I'm not saying it's all easy, but there is an ease. There is a lightness when it's God's way. So it's like, even when it's hard and you're like, I don't know, God, why are you calling me to do this? I don't know if I can do it. I don't really feel like doing it today. I don't think I can. There's this, then you go and do it and you're like, oh yeah, I've got this. Oh yeah, I've got this. Oh, look, I'm doing it. Oh, okay. Thought this would be really hard. It's hard, but I can do it. And you start to build your resilience and your strength, and you start to stretch. And that's when you start to really rise up into this new potential that God put in you the moment God created you. And you start to feel like, oh, this is who I am. You start to feel that authenticity in your life again, that aliveness, that spark, that joy, that passion, that enthusiasm, right? It starts to come rushing back in all areas of your life. And you're just like, wow, right? And because it just changes everything and it ripples into every area of your life. So this has been such powerful, powerful work. Um, so I would highly, highly recommend tuning in, go to your journal, or even just think like, what is coming up for you today? I guarantee you, as you're listening to this, you're probably having something come into your awareness that God's like reflecting to you, that maybe is a block, that maybe you're ready to release, to come out of agreement with that, and to enter into a new agreement with God on a soul level, and make some powerful and miraculous changes in your life. So notice what is coming up for you as you listen. Go journal on this, tonight, or throughout the week. See what comes up for you. Again, you can guide yourself through this practice. You could book a session with me. I am honored and would be happy to lead you through one of these sessions. If you want to do the deeper work and the coaching work, I am relaunching my spiritual transformation program. And I know this is going to be just absolutely just a miracle for so many people. And so I'm actually offering it at a slightly discounted rate to bring through the first people in this updated format. Um, before it goes up to normal price. So there's a 3-month version and a 6-month version. So if you're like, I want to do that, like I'm ready for a full life transformation, send me a message on Instagram at the Sarah Renee Show. Let me know you're interested. Or we can talk about just single one-on-ones as well. And I can get you scheduled for that, and, help guide you through this incredible process. Again, if you don't want to do that, you don't feel called, that's, totally great too. Go try this on your own, right? Like pray on it, ask God for guidance on it, give that a try. And, share today's episode. Like share this episode with somebody that that maybe they've been feeling blocked, or, they're the cycle breaker of their family, and they're doing such deep work. This might be able to complement something that they're already doing, or it might just empower them to take the next step and, really come out of agreement with something that's been holding them back, so that they can rise up to that next level and get back their joy. So, share this episode with them. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you got something valuable out of today, leave a comment. I would love, love, love to hear from you. And thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know again what you thought of today's episode. And next week, we are talking all about spiritual warfare and deliverance in regards to spiritual warfare, um, and coming into agreement or accidentally opening doors, things like that, spiritual attacks, all of that good stuff. So it's going to be a really, really great conversation. I know you're really going to love it, and it's so important. Like all of this information is so important. It makes such a huge difference in your day-to-day life. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being on your spiritual journey. I love you so, so much. I am cheering you on always, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.